I still have goosebumps from these qualifiers. I still can't believe it, guys. We're literally witnessing history, and Max Verstappen secured a fantastic pole position. These are the qualifying results, with Max on pole at 0.2, Norris second, Piastri third, and then all the others. It's an incredible championship experience to the very end. Of course, we have to congratulate Max, because he had an extraordinary qualifying, starting with qualifying in Q2 with a set of used tires, something the others didn't do. They had to set their time with new soft tires, except for Norris, who went in with new soft tires, but didn't use them to set the time because he was already qualified. But Max, considering the car he's driving, really made a difference. And then in Q3, guys, in Q3, he set a time 2/10 away from the McLarens, and we've always said that Abu Dhabi is a track favorable to McLaren. So congratulations to Max, but also to Lando Norris, who handled the pressure very well, managing to finish second. Who would have said before these qualifiers that Lando could come second? Everyone said he would suffer from the pressure. Watch out for Norris, because you see there's Russell, Leclerc nearby, and even Piastri. They could also get ahead in Q1 and Q2. Even Nico Rosberg, even Carlo Vanzini said, watch out. Norris is feeling the pressure. He's not as fast as before, but he proved everyone wrong in Q3 by securing second position. So great job by Lando as well. That said, I want to analyze Hamilton's onboard with you and see the mistake he made in FP3 when he hit the wall. Let's see what caused it, because there's a root problem here. Let's take a look at it together. Let's obviously look at Leclerc's qualifying. We need to discuss the mistake made by Russell in Q3, and there are many topics to address, like tomorrow's start. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you to leave a like, subscribe, and activate notifications. It's crucial to support the videos on this channel. Thank you all so much for your supportive messages and comments. And guys, we're witnessing history, so I want to know your opinion in the comments. Who do you think will win this championship? Will it be Max, Norris, or Piastri? Let me know how you think tomorrow's start will go from your point of view, and stay tuned until the end, because we'll be doing a simulation of tomorrow's race using a machine learning system, and I'll be joined by Lorenzo, who will explain how the program works. So watch the video till the end, as there will be a little gem, a very interesting in-depth analysis. That said, let's go back to Singapore, because there was some tension between Norris and Piastri in Singapore. Let's rewatch that start, where Verstappen was in front, Russell in the lead position, and we see here the wheel bump, the famous wheel bump that, as we remember, caused an internal rift at McLaren. Norris also touched the car in front of Verstappen. Then there was this wheel bump with Piastri, and there was an internal agreement at McLaren, not publicly disclosed, where Norris faced internal consequences that were not revealed. That said, what will tomorrow's start be like? Will Piastri protect Norris, or will Piastri run his own race, and will Norris become a victim, so to speak, of his teammate and end up in chaos? In my opinion, tomorrow's start, obviously Verstappen will keep the pole position at the start. That's my prediction, and Verstappen has two options. He can start and immediately stretch out to run his race and try to win without getting involved in what happens behind him, leaving it to chance, or he can try to slow the pace. Because this takes us back to 2016. We all remember when Hamilton tried to slow the pace in the race with Rosberg to try and let Rosberg pass. Those were back in the day with the internal Mercedes rivalry. But this could also happen with Max Verstappen. Beware that Verstappen might think, well, since there's no chaos behind, let's say the two McLarens aren't bothering each other, can I slow the pace? We know Verstappen has more top speed on the straight, so he could try to take advantage of the situation and create a bit of a mess behind, bringing Russell and Leclerc closer to the two McLarens to let them pass. So how should the two McLarens play it? Well, definitely the two McLarens should try to form a compact block at the start to prevent anyone from passing, neither Russell nor Leclerc. Also because, on paper, McLaren has a better pace, and at the same time, Piastri must be an ally to Norris if McLaren wants to win this Drivers' Championship with Norris. So also pay attention to this. Piastri, in my opinion, will be convinced by McLaren to play as a team player tomorrow and will no longer be a man trying to win the championship. He won't be one of the 3 contenders, but will be the one helping Norris win the championship, in my opinion. Then we'll see tomorrow how it goes. We must congratulate Norris, guys, because he really did a great lap. He maintained the pressure, and only world champions do this, so he has the chances to win it. And he showed it today by handling the pressure very well. Piastri, on the other hand, in third, also did a good lap. I thought Piastri would do better than Norris, for example, in managing the pressure and pace. But in this case, Norris had the upper hand. So great Lando. Let's listen to Russell's team radio, where at one point he says, try to keep me behind Verstappen, because during his in-lap, and he'll probably give me a slipstream. And this is because Verstappen already had the pole position. He didn't need it, or rather, he needed to improve, but was still up front, and Russell thought he could take Max's slipstream. Then we saw that Russell made that mistake at the last corner, and so he didn't improve enough to trouble the McLarens. But surely, Russell thought Verstappen could help him to get ahead of the McLarens, and so there's a bit of cunning there. We also saw, of course, Alonso and Tsunoda helping Verstappen by giving him the slipstream on his first run in Q3. We also saw Fernando Alonso himself saying he gave Max Verstappen the slipstream. So we've seen some drivers leaning in Max's favor in some way. We'll have to see if they'll play as a team at McLaren, or if they'll be more divided between Piastri and Norris. That's the real question, and what will change tomorrow. And then we obviously have to talk about Lewis Hamilton. First, let's look at the mistake Hamilton made in FP3. Lewis Hamilton was improving compared to Verstappen's time. He was 0.1 in the second sector, so not bad at all. But let's see here. Hamilton enters the corner and completely loses the rear. And we saw yesterday too that he lost the rear. But yesterday it was a slow corner. In this case, Hamilton loses it in a fast corner. Here the DRS is open and you can clearly see that he closes it quite late. The DRS. Here still open, it closes here. Probably when Hamilton closed the DRS in this case, there was an imbalance between the aerodynamic load at the rear and the front. And so this imbalance created a very unstable rear. He enters the corner, anticipating the apex, clipping the apex a bit earlier than usual for this corner. And that certainly had a big impact. On losing the rear, we see there's also a bump on the ground, which creates an imbalance in the load. We know that the Venturi channels are fundamental in these ground effect cars, so as soon as there's a slight bump, it feels it, especially in fast corners. So surely this bump also contributed to sending, as they say, brake boosted to sending Lewis into orbit, meaning shooting him towards the barriers. If we see that Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately, was excluded in 16th position by just 8 thousandths, a very small margin, it's a total sadness to see him excluded in qualifying in Q1. Moreover, it's his third exclusion in official qualifying, fourth if we consider the sprint qualifying too. Obviously, the worst result of Hamilton's career being excluded in Q1 so many times in a row. On the other hand, we saw Leclerc doing wonders with his car, trying to keep the car alive and bringing it to Q3. So that's already something, and getting to 5th, in my opinion, is a miracle with this SF25. I mean, look at Leclerc's counter-steering here, and also here we're in the last sector. Look how he continues to counter-steer, and I've seen all his onboards in the exit. You can see he makes continuous corrections, moreover. He makes them very fast, very nervous. These corrections prevent him from driving the car smoothly, cleanly as you need to in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, in my opinion, McLaren was clearly favored in this qualifying, also in terms of pace in the last sector, so maybe it didn't even extract the full potential of the car in the last sector, but it did its job. He managed the pressure, was 4th at that moment, then improved to place 2nd. So hats off to Norris for the qualifying he did, because the final result is clear, he starts 2nd. Let me show you the real difference of Max Verstappen in the last lap, which he did without a slipstream. He doesn't have it. And here the last corner is very difficult because the last corner is very slippery. He attacks the apex well in advance. And then here it's difficult because by anticipating the apex so much, you have a car that oversteers on exit. You have a lot of oversteer, and despite this, look, he gives it that input that allows him to be perfect. And here Max had an incredible lap. Here we are with Lorenzo Mazzilli, and now we're ready to see the prediction for tomorrow's race. Lorenzo is a phenomenon, I would say so, in the sense that you're truly a model student studying at H-Farm in Veneto. You've done various projects like building a wind tunnel on your own. You participated in a project at UCL, which you'll explain to us later. But I want to start right away with the prediction for tomorrow's race, the most important race of the championship. Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri are competing for the championship, and we're going to see what the real chances of winning the championship are among the three drivers. Tell us, Lorenzo. Go ahead. As you might expect, Norris is definitely the favorite. Even after these qualifying sessions, especially with his second place on the front row, it's very unlikely that Verstappen will manage not just to come out on top in the race, as we'll also see from the race pace, but also in the championship. This is mainly because it's true that whoever starts in the front row usually wins in Abu Dhabi, especially from the pole, but Verstappen really needs Norris to finish fourth. And from the pace he showed in the second free practice, it shows that no one can get in between. This gives Norris a 78% probability of winning the championship, not the Grand Prix. Verstappen, despite being the favorite for the Grand Prix, as we can see and we'll see later in the prediction, is not the favorite for the championship. In fact, he only has an 18% chance of winning. Instead, Piastri has a minimal probability of 4%, mainly due to his qualifying result. Being third isn't bad, but more importantly, his competitors are ahead of him in terms of points and also in qualifying standings. Think that, among other things, even before seeing your percentages, I had said Norris has an 80% chance of winning the championship, and well, it practically confirmed with a 78%, almost certainly Norris's championship. Then we'll obviously see the start, because it's always a critical issue. We will definitely have to see how Piastri will fight on the track, whether he will act as Norris's teammate and protect him from those coming from behind, or if he will clash on the track to fight for the championship himself. The chances for Piastri are really minimal, so the McLaren team surely knows this, and in my opinion, as I also said in the video, Piastri will play more as a team player than against Norris, but we'll obviously see tomorrow. I want to ask you, of course, I've seen that second percentage you put on the podium for Mercedes and Ferrari. What are the chances of Mercedes and Ferrari finishing on the podium, possibly ahead of the McLarens? Well, Ferrari has a very small chance, mainly because Leclerc starts behind Russell, and Russell, as we know, defends very well. But two, he has a race pace that we've seen in FP2 that is very competitive, so it will be very difficult to get the better of the British driver. It might be a great opportunity at the start or differentiate with strategies. But Ferrari has a 17% chance of a podium. On the other hand, Mercedes, despite having a higher chance, 25%, still has to climb a huge mountain, either getting in between the two McLarens or Red Bull. This is not a high probability chance because of the pace shown in FP2, but also the qualifying positions and the performance in Grand Prix, similar to Abu Dhabi, in the last 5 years show that these two teams, especially with Verstappen and Red Bull, are ahead in terms of performance and race. How did you make this prediction? I mean, how does your machine learning model work that you've prepared? And for this, I reiterate again, I think you're a phenomenon. You're 15 years old. I also want to mention that. And so you've made a machine learning model that predicts the race result by analyzing various data, which you'll explain better, but certainly the result of the qualifiers, the result of the free practices, the season. Tell us a bit. Let's start with the race prediction, and then we'll also connect to the model. Well, from the race prediction, we can see it. Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri should be confirmed on the podium as per the qualifiers. Although Norris has a slightly faster race pace than Verstappen, as we've seen in past editions, Abu Dhabi is a track where overtaking is very limited, especially due to the two straights and a straight followed by a fast corner. So the possibility of overtaking is very reduced. Then Verstappen also has a decent pace, which strengthens his first place. Norris and Piastri, thanks to their pace, should easily complete the podium. On the other hand, the drivers who started further back, like Antonelli and Hamilton, we find them a bit higher up. In fact, Hamilton, we will find him in 15th position and Antonelli in 13th. This is mainly because, obviously, their cars are not at the level of their qualifying performance, and so they can climb positions, especially in the early stages of the race. The drivers who really surprised us were definitely Bortoleto and Ajar. These two have shown incredible speed. Unfortunately, they will have to climb a few positions from the qualifiers because their setup, their race pace is not at the level they demonstrated in the fast lap. So these are the variables we will consider for the prediction, namely the result in FP3 and FP2, the DNF percentage, meaning how many times a driver did not finish the race during this season, then the pit stop rankings, a race pace shown in the second free practice, the team's performance on circuits similar to Abu Dhabi, which in this case are Baku, Singapore, Qatar, and also Qatar, then the form in the 5 weekends prior to Qatar, and then the grid position, which is what counts the most in the end as a percentage, the highest one. Well, Laurie, at 15 years old, you did a project that is truly enviable, to say the least, meaning it's really something to be proud of. But you've done many other projects too. Which project are you most proud of? How did the idea for Racing come about? And then I ask you to share with us the various experiences you've had. So the project I'm probably most proud of is the first one, mainly because it's what made me realize how even a young person like me can actually enter the world of Formula One with somewhat more complex projects, simply if you truly believe in it. This was the project I did for my middle school thesis, which was to create a wind tunnel and then test the FlowViz. That is how the air interacts with the Formula One car on the 2020 Ferrari car. Not a glorious car, but still a car that made this theme and these aerodynamic concepts stand out. Definitely. Another project I am very proud of is the most recent one, which is the construction from scratch of the 2016 110 scale Formula One car functioning with DRS. And the most interesting thing is that my favorite part was testing it with CFD software on my computer and highlighting how aerodynamic concepts can actually be reflected in reality and how these help me, of course, to create the various parts of the car that I designed in 3D. If you can also talk about your project you did at UCL as well. Absolutely. This summer I attended UCL, which for those who don't know is a very prestigious university in England. This year at UCL, I did a 2-week internship in July. It was a working experience, so we were tested both in the academic world in the morning with lectures and in the work world in the afternoon. And throughout all this, we also participated in competitions like civil engineering and aerodynamic engineering. These are obviously the ones I was most passionate about, mainly because they are the types of engineering I prefer most, and are also the ones I ended up winning. The aerodynamic one, which was the most interesting for my specialization, was a real success because we had to create an aerofoil, which is a perpendicular section of an airplane wing that would withstand and not stall, thus working at an angle of attack, meaning at the highest possible inclination. This was indeed one of the most beautiful moments of my student career because, let's say, the prize was meeting a real Formula One engineer who worked at Mercedes on the most high-performing car in history, the V11, and it was probably the experience I will remember the most in these years. Beautiful, a fantastic experience, and speaking of which, who is your idol from an engineering perspective in Formula One? My idol, as you can see here. I read the book is Adrian Newey. I also mentioned him in my middle school thesis. I was born during the Vettel years, which unfortunately I couldn't appreciate. But I understood how much this Formula One genius can impact the result of a team. As we are thinking, Aston Martin next year might be a team that can compete for the Constructors' Championship, and this is solely due to the presence of a person like him. I was particularly inspired by his story of how he started with small models, and I see myself a lot in him, even in my career future, because my dream is to climb the ranks in Formula One jobs, and then become a chief engineer, the head of the car department, and eventually, perhaps in the future, become a team principal to manage and experience everything that happens in a Formula One team from A to Z. We certainly wish you that, Lorenzo, and congratulations again on your career, which is still at the beginning, if we may. Thank you for this chat, and we've explored a bit of all the topics. It was very interesting to see the forecast for tomorrow, how the model works. I will obviously leave your contact in the description in case anyone is interested in contacting you, and we will catch up, of course, after the race to see how the prediction went and to discuss it together. thanks again, Lorenzo. A huge thank you to you as well for believing in me for this wonderful opportunity, as it will certainly remain one of the most important I've ever had. No, I also want to say something. You reached out to me via email, and we've been working on this in the past few days to do this short interview. I really want to give space, of course, to young people like you who have a lot of talent and can contribute a lot even to Formula One. So I thank you because you also gave me this opportunity to get to know you, as you are a talent, and I keep saying it, I'll repeat it. And there are many, even in Italy, often they are not appreciated, so I want to give them space on my channel. So thank you very much. Thank you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, I remind you to leave a like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos on the channel. That's all from Rasta. See you in the next video.